A pity.
Schade.
What a pity. A shame.
Sehr schade.
That's a shame. Advice.
Rat.
Can you give me any useful advice? Ambitious.
Ehrgeizig.
An ambitious person wants to succeed. Ankle.
Fußgelenk.
I think I've twisted my ankle. Appearance.
Aussehen.
I was shocked by his appearance. Astonishing.
Erstaunlich.
There is an astonishing reason why the six Angulo brothers try so hard to imitate their favorite film stars. Audition.
Vorsprechen.
Margot had an audition but didn't get the role. Bad-tempered.
Schlecht gelaunt.
Sometimes she's a bit moody and bad-tempered. Bored.
Gelangweilt.
I'm bored, I've got nothing to do. Boring.
Langweilig.
It was a boring film, nothing really happened. Brand new.
Brandneu.
She's just bought a brand new car. Calm.
Ruhig.
I'm like my mum, calm and easygoing. Caring.
Fürsorglich.
He's very caring and always asks how I'm doing. Challenging.
Anspruchsvoll.
Teaching is a challenging job. Charming.
Bezaubernd.
It's a charming little old house surrounded by trees and flowers. Cheerful.
Fröhlich.
She's always cheerful and full of fun. Cloudy.
Bewölkt.
The sky's a bit cloudy, so bring your umbrella. Comfortable.
Bequem.
It's modern and very comfortable. Condition.
Zustand.
It's a few years old but still in good condition. Cozy.
Gemütlich.
It's a cozy room, so you'll be very warm. Cottage.
Cottage. Häuschen.
A cottage is a small house, usually in the countryside. Creative.
Kreativ.
My brother likes art and is very creative. Crowded.
Überfüllt.
The shops get very crowded at the weekend. Curious.
Neugierig.
We began to get more curious. Curly.
Lockig.
I wish I had curly hair. Cut off.
Abgeschnitten.
The children were not completely cut off from the outside world. Definite.
Konkret.
Do you have any definite plans for your future career? Definitely.
Auf jeden Fall.
I'll definitely see you there later. Delicious.
Köstlich.
It was a really delicious meal. Disappointed.
Enttäuscht.
We were all disappointed with the service. Disguise.
Verkleidung.
I don't think you should wear such a frightening disguise. Documentary.
Dokumentarfilm.
The documentary tells the story of their lives. Dominant.
Dominant.
The firstborn child is often dominant and ambitious. Drive someone crazy.
Jemanden verrückt machen.
She drives me crazy sometimes. Easygoing.
Gelassen.
The second child is free and easygoing. Eccentric.
Exzentrisch.
Such an unusual vehicle is perfect for eccentric car lovers. Enormous.
Riesig.
There's an enormous park in the north of the city. Enthusiasm.
Begeisterung.
Everyone catches his enthusiasm. Escape.
Flucht.
Mukunda escaped from the apartment. Exciting.
Spannend.
It was an exciting game to watch. Exhausting.
Anstrengend.
The journey was difficult and exhausting. Fail.
Nicht bestehen.
I failed my driving test again. Fair enough.
In Ordnung.
That's fair enough if you ask me. Famous.
Berühmt.
He doesn't want to be rich or famous. Fight like cat and dog.
Sich wie Hund und Katz vertragen.
Those two often fight like cat and dog. Flatmates.
Mitbewohner.
He has a great relations HP with his flatmates. Generous.
Großzügig.
It was very generous of you to pay for dinner. Good looking.
Gut aussehend.
I think he's really good looking. Groceries.
Lebensmittel.
His dad was getting some groceries. Hard-working.
fleißig,
She's very hard-working and often stays late at the office. Heal.
heilen,
Her ankle's healing well. Height.
Körpergröße,
I'd say he's of medium height. Homemade.
hausgemacht,
I prefer homemade cakes to the ones you get in supermarkets. Honest.
ehrlich,
I like the way she's so honest about herself. Imitate.
imitieren,
They try to imitate their favorite film stars. Imprisoned.
eingesperrt,
They were imprisoned in an overcrowded, messy flat. In common.
gemeinsam, haben,
We have a lot in common and are great friends. Insecure.
unsicher,
He is a very nervous and insecure person. Interested.
interessiert,
I was interested in the history of the place. Killer.
Mörder, in,
A killer is someone who murders another person. Kindness.
Güte,
Thank you for showing such kindness. Mask.
Maske,
He was wearing a mask on his face. Mature.
voll entwickelt,
It's a mature garden with many large trees. Memorable.
unvergesslich,
Tell me about a memorable meal you've had. Messy.
unordentlich,
This room is so messy. You need to tidy up. Middle-aged.
mittleren Alters,
He's a middle-aged man in his 40s. Moody.
mürrisch,
Stop being so moody and cheer up. Naive.
naiv,
It was naive of me to believe her. Needs decorating.
muss tapeziert, gestrichen werden,
This room needs decorating. Noisy.
laut,
It can be noisy living in the city center. Old-fashioned.
altmodisch,
I prefer the old-fashioned design to the modern one. Overcrowded.
überfüllt,
The museums can get rather overcrowded in the summer. Passionate.
leidenschaftlich,
He's passionate about his music. Patient.
geduldig,
She's very patient with young children. Personality.
Persönlichkeit,
One thing I love about her is her sunny personality. Pessimistic.
pessimistisch,
Try not to be so pessimistic about everything. Possession.
Besitz,
What's your most treasured possession? Pretty.
ziemlich,
She's pretty cool, my mum. Proud.
stolz,
I'm proud of how well I can speak Chinese. Prove.
beweisen,
He wants to prove to himself that he's a good actor. Raise.
erziehen,
His parents obviously raised him well. Reclusive.
zurückgezogen lebend,
The family who live there are very reclusive. Refuse.
sich weigern,
Mukunda refused to answer their questions. Relaxing.
entspannend,
It was a relaxing weekend. Reliable.
zuverlässig,
She's a reliable employee. Reserved.
zurückhaltend,
I find her a little too reserved and quiet for my liking. Responsible.
verantwortlich,
The eldest child often feels responsible for the others. Row.
Streit,
We had a terrible row and are not speaking now. Scary.
furchterregend,
He was wearing a scary homemade mask. Second hand.
gebraucht,
I bought my car second hand. Security officer.
Sicherheitsbeauftragte,
He works as a security officer on the Orsund Bridge. See eye to eye.
einer Meinung sein,
We don't really see eye to eye about anything. Sense of humor.
Sinn für Humor,
I like Alice's boyfriend's sense of humor. Sensitive.
sensibel,
He's quite sensitive, so don't ask him about it. Shocked.
schockiert,
I was shocked by what he said to me. Shocking.
schockierend,
It was a shocking documentary about prison conditions. Shy.
schüchtern,
Bernice seems shy until you get to know her. Smart casual.
Sportlich elegant.
He prefers smart casual and stylish clothes. Sociable.
Gesellig.
She's so sociable, not shy like me. Spicy.
Stark gewürzt.
Do you eat much spicy food? Spoilt.
Verwöhnt.
People say the youngest child is often spoilt. Stranger.
Fremde.
Their story is stranger than any film. Strike.
Streik.
My flight was cancelled because of a pilot's strike. Stunning.
Atemberaubend.
We has a stunning view of the mountains from our window. Stylish.
Elegant.
You don't need to wear anything too stylish this evening. Talented.
Begabt.
I think he's really talented. Thoughtful.
Aufmerksam.
It was very thoughtful of you to ask. Thrilled.
Begeistert.
You could see they were thrilled to win first prize. Thrilling.
Aufregend.
Skiing at night was a thrilling experience. Tired.
Müde.
I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. Tiring.
Ermüdend.
It was a long and tiring day. Tribe.
Stamm.
I felt I had discovered a lost tribe. Trust.
Vertrauen.
They grew to trust her over time. Twinkly.
Funkelnd.
He has twinkly, dark brown eyes. Twist.
Verdrehen.
I fell and twisted my ankle. Tyrannical.
Tyrannisch.
They had a tyrannical father. Upbringing.
Erziehung.
Did the boys suffer as a result of their upbringing? Ups and downs.
Höhen und Tiefen.
We have our ups and downs. Wallet.
Brieftasche.
Richard can never find his wallet when it's his turn to pay. Wavy.
Gewellt.
She's quite tall with long, blonde, wavy hair. Weird.
Komisch.
She's got some weird ideas. Welfare money.
Sozialhilfe.
The family lived on welfare money. Well behaved.
Artig.
Were you well behaved when you were a child? Well dressed.
Gut gekleidet.
He's always very well dressed in a suit and tie. Yell.
Schreien.
He yells at the crowd when he's DJing. Ability.
Fähigkeit.
I describe my language ability in percentages of fluency. Abroad.
Ins Ausland.
He often tours abroad and performs in other languages. Abruptly.
Ganz, plötzlich.
She left abruptly when I told her. Adventure.
Abenteuer.
There's also the fun and adventure of doing something new. Allergy.
Allergie.
Does anyone in your family have an allergy? Appointment.
Termin.
I need to make an appointment. Appreciative.
Dankbar.
People are appreciative of the fact that I've made the effort. ATM.
Geldautomat.
Where are you standing if you are using an ATM in Latin? Avoid.
Meiden.
I think I'll avoid him until he calms down. Be dying for.
Unbedingt brauchen.
I'm dying for a coffee. Be interested in.
Sich interessieren für.
Are you interested in any sports? Bilingual.
Zweisprachig.
So, are you and your sister both bilingual? Buzz.
Summen.
In English, bees go buzz and cats go meow. Cancellation.
Absage.
We have a cancellation this afternoon at 2:45 if that's okay. Comedian.
Komiker, in.
Eddie Izzard is a popular British stand-up comedian. Commonly.
Üblicherweise.
What languages are commonly spoken there? Consonant.
Konsonant.
How many consonant sounds are there in your language? Constantly.
Ständig.
I want you to constantly correct any mistakes I make. Context.
Kontext.
I understood the context, so that helped a bit. Continent.
Kontinent.
How many continents are there in total? Converse.
Sich unterhalten.
I've made the effort to converse with them. Correspondence.
Korrespondenz.
The majority prefer to receive correspondence in English. Cute.
Süß.
Felipe thought it was fine to say out loud, "Ooh, she is cute." Dessert.
Nachtisch, Dessert.
You really must try the other dessert. Disappear.
Verschwinden.
At what rate are languages disappearing around the world? Drop.
Aufgeben.
Many UK schoolchildren drop foreign languages at 14 years old. Emotions.
Emotionen.
Different cultures express emotions in a variety of ways. Enrich.
Bereichern.
Learning a language will enrich your life. Filling.
Zahnfüllung.
One of my fillings has fallen out. Flawless.
Fehlerfrei.
Anne's piano playing was flawless. Fluency.
Fließende Beherrschung.
Is fluency or accuracy more important to you in your English? Foreign.
Fremd.
What percentage of people speak a foreign language? Gender.
Geschlecht.
The two languages couldn't agree on gender. Gossip.
Tratschen.
They'll gossip with me, whereas before it was quite formal. Grasp.
Verstehen.
I was able to grasp some of what they were saying. Immersion.
Immersion. Eintauchen.
A month of deep immersion will help your fluency. Issue.
Problem.
The first time I remember it being an issue was at school. Matinee.
Matinee. Nachmittagsvorstellung.
Is there a matinee performance today? Motivation.
Motivation.
What's your motivation for learning English? Native speaker.
Muttersprachler, in.
Should native speakers of English learn a foreign language? Obviously.
Offensichtlich.
As I grew up in Scotland, I speak English, obviously. Offended.
Beleidigt.
Don't worry, I won't be offended. Official.
Amtlich. Offiziell.
One of the official UN languages is English. OMG.
OMG.
The first recorded use of OMG to show surprise was in a letter. Opportunity.
Gelegenheit.
It was a fantastic opportunity to learn about the area. Out loud.
Laut.
Don't read the words out loud. Parcel.
Paket.
Will this parcel get there tomorrow? Perform.
Auftreten.
Eddie Izzard has been performing in other languages since 2011. Polite.
Höflich.
It was all quite formal and polite. Priest.
Priester, in.
The Vatican has a private bank for priests and employees. Profit.
Gewinn.
I'm beginning to turn a profit on my foreign shows. Pronounce.
Aussprechen.
Gendered nouns were difficult to pronounce. Recently.
In letzter Zeit.
What have you been watching on TV recently? Recite.
Rezitieren.
Thomas Edison recited a nursery rhyme on the phone. Recording.
Aufnahme.
Edison was making the first sound recording. Remote.
Abgelegen.
I have a house in a remote area in France. Reputation.
Ruf.
The British have a poor reputation for learning languages. Rock up.
Auftauchen.
I rocked up 10 years ago. Settle.
Sich niederlassen.
We decided to settle in Canada and bought a house there. Side dish.
Beilage.
You have to order them as a side dish. Silently.
Leise.
Reading silently only became common in the 10th century AD. Simplify.
Vereinfachen.
The Chicago Tribune has tried to simplify English spelling. Sold out.
Ausverkauft.
I'm afraid it's sold out today. Stand up.
Stand-up comedian.
Eddie Izzard is a popular British stand-up comedian. Stint.
Arbeitszeit.
The longest stint I've had there has been 3 months. Thunder.
Donner.
That sounded like thunder to me. Trace.
Spur.
Sometimes you can hear a trace of an Italian accent. Trilingual.
Dreisprachig.
Would you say that Sarah and Nicholas are both trilingual? Trim.
Haarschnitt.
Just a trim, please. Urgent.
Dringend.
It's quite urgent. I've lost a filling. Well-educated.
Gebildet.
What language did well-educated ancient Romans speak? A&E.
Notaufnahme.
I'm an A&E doctor. Angry.
Wütend.
The most stressful situation is when angry parents show up. Announce.
Bekannt geben.
They have announced a fall in profits. Annual salary.
Jahresgehalt.
The average annual salary for all jobs in Britain is £27,000. Apologies.
Entschuldigung.
Please accept my apologies for not contacting you earlier. Attached.
Im Anhang.
Please find attached a copy of my CV. Average.
Durchschnittlich.
On average, every adult owes £28,900 in debt. Balance.
Gleichgewicht.
How do you get a balance between work and home life? Be in charge of.
Zuständig sein für.
An accountant is in charge of budget and cash flow. Be in debt.
Schulden haben.
I don't like being in debt. Be moved by.
Gerührt sein von.
Dan Price is clearly moved by the difference he has made. Be responsible for.
Verantwortlich sein für.
The CEO is responsible for running the whole company. Beneficial.
Nützlich.
Which of the jobs are the most beneficial to society? Blame.
Die Schuld geben.
The manager is always blamed when the team loses. Boss.
Chef. In.
Dan Price is probably the best boss in the world. Budget.
Budget.
An accountant is in charge of budget and cash flow. Bunch.
Haufen.
I'm looking after a bunch of 3-year-olds. Cash flow.
Kapitalfluss.
We've got a serious problem with our cash flow. CEO.
Firmenchef. In.
The CEO is responsible for running the whole company. Chat.
Plaudern.
He's standing in front of the window chatting to Helena. Commute.
Arbeitsweg.
My commute to work takes about an hour each way. Conference.
Tagung.
It's very convenient for the conference. Consideration.
Berücksichtigung.
Please find attached my references for your consideration. Contract.
Vertrag.
A sales director negotiates prices and contracts. Convenient.
Praktisch.
It's very convenient for the conference. Crazy.
Verrückt.
Other company owners told him he was crazy. Dangly.
Baumelnd.
Can you see the huge, dangly earrings she's wearing? Deserve.
Verdienen.
That's why we deserve the money we earn. Distress.
Notlage.
I understand their distress. Diver.
Taucher. In.
Kyle Cooper is a deep-sea diver and oil well installer. Diving bell.
Taucherglocke.
We go up and down in a kind of diving bell. DIY.
Heimwerken.
I do DIY around the house. I'm decorating at the moment. Dozen.
Dutzend.
A dozen people are sitting around a conference table. Drag.
Schleppen.
I can't drag myself out of bed. Dressing room.
Ankleideraum.
You can get changed in the dressing room over there. Drill.
Bohrer.
Can I borrow your drill to do some DIY? Earn.
Verdienen.
I don't earn very much money. Employer.
Arbeitgeber. In.
The biggest employer in the UK is the NHS. Encourage.
Ermutigen.
How can we encourage people to use public transport? Escalators.
Rolltreppen.
I never take escalators or lifts. Excursion.
Ausflug.
You will accompany students on excursions. Experiment.
Experiment.
Will Dan Price's experiment succeed or not? Fabulous.
Fantastisch.
You get a fabulous view of the city from up there. Face.
Umgehen können mit.
I can usually face going back to work after a nice holiday. Glamorous.
Glanzvoll.
People believe it's a more glamorous job than it actually is. Grateful.
Dankbar.
His employees are very grateful, but they also feel worried. Greedy.
Gierig.
Many CEOs are greedy for profit. Headset.
Kopfhörer.
He's got his headset on so he can't hear you. Helmet.
Helm.
You should wear a helmet when you cycle. Household.
Haushalt.
80% of British households own a car. Huge.
Riesig.
A good school makes a huge difference. Human resources.
HR. Personal.
I'm a human resources manager. Import.
Importieren.
Nearly 50% of the food we buy in the UK is imported. Income.
Einkommen.
There's too much income inequality in the world. Industrial estate.
Industriegebiet.
My office is on an industrial estate. Inequality.
Ungleichheit.
Is there income inequality in your country? Install.
Installieren.
What I do is install underwater gas and oil wells. Jumper.
Pullover.
That's Jenny in the pink jumper. Knit.
Stricken.
In my free moments I knit. I'm making a blue jumper just now. Lie in.
Ausschlafen.
In this job you never get to lie in. Loan.
Darlehen.
I had credit card debt and student loans. Loneliness.
Einsamkeit.
Loneliness can be a problem for older people in the UK. Look after.
Sich kümmern.
I look after the employees and their training. Lunatic.
Irre.
Fox News called him the lunatic of all lunatics. Manner.
Verhalten.
You need to have a welcoming manner for this job. Mat.
Matte.
You can borrow my yoga mat if you like. Meditation.
Meditation.
I find that meditation helps me a lot. Minimum wage.
Mindestlohn.
Dan Price took a pay cut to give his staff a $70,000 minimum wage. Miserably.
Unglücklich.
I watched miserably as his team lost again. Needle.
Nadel.
I need to do some sewing. Have you got a needle and thread? Negotiate.
Verhandeln.
A sales director negotiates prices and contracts. Nursery nurse.
Erzieherin.
Is a nursery nurse well paid? On hold.
Auf Eis liegen.
Dan Price's jet-set lifestyle is now on hold. Oh.
Schulden.
I owe a lot of money to the bank. Patient.
Patientin.
A&E is unpredictable for both doctors and patients. Personnel.
Personal.
A human resources manager looks after personnel. Pocket money.
Taschengeld.
How much pocket money did you get every week as a child? Previous.
Vorherig.
Do you have any previous experience of working with kids? Proficient.
Bewandert.
I was already proficient in Spanish, having worked there. Racket.
Schläger.
I broke my racket the last time I played squash. Rare.
Außergewöhnlich.
It was a rare and extremely valuable painting. Rarely.
Selten.
I rarely see Peter these days. Reappear.
Wieder auftauchen.
Let's hope problems like these don't reappear. Recruit.
Anwerben.
I'm recruiting and interviewing for new staff. Redecorate.
Renovieren.
The hotel is closed while the bedrooms are being redecorated. Referee.
Schiedsrichterin.
Football managers often disagree with the referee. Reference.
Zeugnis.
Please find attached a reference from my previous employer. Regret.
Bedauern.
I regret to inform you that you have not been successful. Rural.
Ländlich.
Dan Price comes from rural Idaho. Saddle.
Sattel.
What type of saddle do you use to go horse riding? Sailing.
Segeln.
Sailing is my favorite pastime. Sales assistant.
Verkäufer, in.
How much does a sales assistant get paid? Scarf.
Schal.
My scarf will tell you which football team I support. Screwdriver.
Schraubenzieher.
I'm looking for a short screwdriver I can use in a small space. Seabed.
Meeresgrund.
The diving bell is lowered down to the seabed. Sew.
Nähen.
I can sew, but I can't knit. Shorts.
Shorts.
I've bought all the kit, shorts and trainers and stuff. Shout.
Schreien.
Some days he shouts a lot, but he listens as well. Silk.
Seide.
She's wearing a lovely green jacket and cream silk scarf. Sip.
Nippen.
This coffee's really hot, so sip it slowly. Sleeping bag.
Schlafsack.
You'll need a warm sleeping bag when you go camping. Store card.
Kundenkarte.
I forgot to bring my store card when I went shopping. Stressful.
Stressig.
What do they find stressful about their job? Striped.
Gestreift.
Is he the guy working on his laptop in the striped shirt? Suburb.
Vorort.
I live in a suburb not far from the sea. Suit.
Anzug.
He's wearing a light gray suit. Supervise.
Beaufsichtigen.
You will help to supervise students at our summer school. Switch off.
Abschalten.
I try to switch off when I get home. Target.
Ziel.
CEOs discuss plans and targets with their board of directors. Tax.
Steuern.
The average UK family pays £730,000 in tax in their lifetime. Tent.
Zelt.
The rain got into my tent the last time I went camping. Thread.
Faden.
I need to do some sewing. Have you got a needle and thread? Tie.
Krawatte.
He's wearing a bright blue tie. Time consuming.
Zeitaufwendig.
My job is so time consuming. I work 6 days out of 7. Track.
Verfolgen.
Researchers from Harvard Business School are tracking results. Tracksuit.
Trainingsanzug.
I wear a tracksuit when I go jogging in winter. Trainers.
Trainingsschuhe.
I think I've left my trainers at the gym. Tricky.
Schwierig.
It's tricky to get a balance between work and home life. Triplets.
Drillinge.
One of the sheep had triplets last night. Underwriter.
Risikoprüfer, in.
I spoke to Nidelis Ortiz, a 26-year-old underwriter at Gravity. Unkempt.
Zerzaust.
With his unkempt hair, he doesn't look like a CEO. Unusual.
Ungewöhnlich.
Why is Dan Price an unusual boss? Violent.
Gewalttätig.
Then came the criticism, immediate and violent. Workforce.
Erwerbsbevölkerung.
The UK workforce is made up of 53% men and 47% women. Worried.
Beunruhigt.
His employees are very grateful, but they also feel worried. Adore.
Anbeten, verehren.
He totally adores Maria. Appear.
Erscheinen.
A few months later, the grapes started to appear on the vines. Awful.
Schrecklich.
The book was really awful. Beloved.
Geliebt.
James was frightened for his beloved sister. Blackmail.
Erpressen.
Dorian managed to blackmail him into getting rid of the body. Blind.
Erblinden.
He didn't die, but he was blinded. Bride.
Braut.
The bride was wearing a long white dress and looked so happy. Brilliant.
Großartig.
It was brilliant, really amazing. Chew.
Kauen.
The chief defect of Henry King was chewing little bits of string. Choke.
Verstopfen.
The birds had choked the engines of the plane. Classic.
Klassiker.
The novel was finally recognized as a great classic. Confide.
Anvertrauen.
One day, he confided to Henry that he had fallen in love. Crash.
Absturz.
The crash was caused by a flock of starlings. Crave.
Nach ETW. Gelüsten.
She craved the lettuce, presumably because she was pregnant. Cruel.
Grausam.
It's cruel and the wicked witch is really wicked. Cure.
Heilung.
There is no cure for this disease. Dead.
Tod.
Henry will very soon be dead. Decadent.
Dekadent.
Again, he threw himself into his decadent life. Defect.
Schwäche.
The chief defect of Henry King was chewing little bits of string. Defend.
Verteidigen.
Wilde always defended Dorian Gray. Definitive.
Maßgeblich.
He's the definitive James Bond. Desperate.
Verzweifelt.
A cruel and desperate Dorian contacted a former doctor friend. Destroy.
Zerstören.
He had to destroy the picture. Disaster.
Katastrophe.
Schiefelen caused an ecological disaster too. Drive out.
Vertreiben.
Many native species were driven out. Ecological.
Ökologisch.
Schiefelen caused an ecological disaster too. Engagement.
Verlobung.
Dorian, embarrassed and furious, ended the engagement. Eternal.
Ewig.
He sold his soul in exchange for eternal youth. Evidence.
Beweis.
There is no evidence of Shakespeare visiting Italy. Expression.
Gesichtsausdruck.
His soft expression had become hard and cruel. Fall for someone.
Von jemandem angetan sein, sich in jemanden verlieben.
They could see why he had fallen for her. Fantastic.
Fantastisch.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. Fascinating.
Faszinierend.
The talk was really fascinating. Fee.
Gebühr.
How much is the entrance fee? Flock.
Schwarm.
They formed gigantic flocks of up to 1 million birds. Furious.
Wütend.
Dorian, embarrassed and furious, ended the engagement. Gesture.
Geste.
Schiefelen's romantic gesture caused an air crash. Get rid of.
Loswerden.
Dorian managed to blackmail him into getting rid of the body. Gigantic.
Gigantisch.
They formed gigantic flocks of up to 1 million birds. Grab.
Packen.
One night, a sailor grabbed him from behind. Guilt.
Schuld.
He tried to drown his guilt in a life of pleasure and scandal. Handsome.
Gut aussehend.
Dorian Gray was an extremely handsome young man. Hideous.
Scheußlich.
I can't bear the idea of my soul being hideous. Impressed.
Beeindruckt.
Henry was very impressed by the portrait. Influence.
Einfluss.
Are you really such a bad influence as Basil says? In high regard.
Sehr geschätzt.
His plays and poems are held in high regard. Kill.
Umbringen.
If he does you any wrong, I'll kill him. Knot.
Knoten.
This string has tied itself into a knot. Lament.
Beklagen.
His parents stood about his bed lamenting his untimely death. Lock.
Einschließen.
The witch locked her up at the top of a tower. Memorize.
Auswendig lernen.
Shakespeare had to memorize stories from history at school. Moral.
Moral.
What is the moral of this story? Native species.
Heimische Arten.
Many native species were driven out. Obsessed.
Besessen.
Schiefelen was obsessed with Shakespeare. Plague.
Pest.
From 1592 to 1594, Theaters were closed because of the plague. Playwright.
Dramatiker, in.
By 1592 he had become a well-known actor and playwright. Pleasures.
Vergnügungen.
Dorian began to seek new pleasures around London. Plot.
Handlung.
What are some key moments in the plot? Poor.
Arm.
Sybil lived with her poor mother and brother James. Population.
Bevölkerung.
At that time, Stratford had a population of about 1,000. Portrait.
Porträt.
I will grow old, but the portrait will never be older. Presumably.
Vermutlich.
She craved the lettuce, presumably because she was pregnant. Promise.
Versprechen.
Promise me that you will look for it. Rage.
Wut.
In a fit of rage, Dorian stabbed his friend to death. Receipt.
Quittung.
You'll need the receipt if you want to get your money back. Repulsive.
Abstoßend.
To his horror, it had become even more repulsive. Run out of.
Etwas, ausgehen.
I ran out of petrol. Scandal.
Skandal.
He tried to drown his guilt in a life of pleasure and scandal. Secret.
Geheimnis.
I have an important secret to tell you. Setting.
Schauplatz.
The setting is late 19th century London. Shares.
Aktien.
In 1597, they bought £10 shares in a new theatre, the Globe. Soul.
Seele.
I can't bear the idea of my soul being hideous. Spread.
Sich ausbreiten.
By the 1940s, the Starlings had spread from California to Alaska. Stab.
Einstechen auf.
He took a knife and stabbed the picture. Suffer.
Leiden.
Alan, I had to kill him. He made me suffer. Survive.
Überleben.
Tragically, only 19 people survived. Swallow.
Verschlucken.
The crocodile had swallowed a clock. Take off.
Starten.
The Lockheed Electra plane was taking off from Boston Airport. Temptation.
Versuchung.
I believe the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. Tough.
Schwer.
Being an adult is tough. Tragically.
Tragischerweise.
Tragically, only 19 people survived. Treasure.
Schatz.
There is a great treasure buried in the vineyard. Ugly.
Hässlich.
It would never grow old and ugly. Unfortunate.
Bedauernswert.
He only left his unfortunate wife their second-best bed. Untimely.
Frühzeitig.
His parents stood about his bed lamenting his untimely death. Upset.
Bestürzt.
They were very upset when they found not a single penny. Utmost.
Höchste.
Physicians of the utmost fame were called at once. Vineyard.
Weinberg.
There is a great treasure buried in the vineyard. Wealthy.
Wohlhabend.
His father, John Shakespeare, was a wealthy wool trader. Whisk.
Wegholen.
When they finally had a baby, a wicked witch whisked it away. Wool.
Wolle.
His father, John Shakespeare, was a wealthy wool trader. Wreck.
Zerstören.
You wrecked the life of my sister. Wretched.
Elend.
With that, the wretched child expires. Wrinkled.
Faltig.
The police found the body of an ugly, wrinkled old man. Yield.
Nachgeben.
I believe the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. Aggressive.
Aggressiv.
They'll probably get aggressive about it, but just ignore them. Break up.
Trennung.
You'll get through this breakup. Bring up.
Ansprechen.
Don't bring up the subject of money too early in a job interview. Bump into someone.
Mit jemandem zusammenstoßen.
You should say sorry if you bump into someone. Cash.
Geld.
They sometimes take it out of their wages if cash is missing. Change.
Wechselgeld.
That shop assistant has given me too much change. Change your mind.
Meinung ändern.
I don't think she'll change her mind about it now. Charger.
Ladegerät.
Could I possibly use your phone charger? Chores.
Hausarbeiten.
You can always make time to do all the chores. Complain.
Beschweren.
They never complain about my terrible singing. Cupboard.
Schrank.
I work in an office with a huge stationery cupboard. Damage.
Beschädigen.
Have you ever lost or damaged your phone? Desperately.
Verzweifelt.
Sometimes I can't help desperately wishing I could do again. Devote time.
Zeit widmen.
I wish I could devote more time to my hobbies. Divorce.
Scheidung.
Why on earth did you bring his divorce up? Drop off.
Herunterfallen.
The box dropped off the back of the truck. Fed up.
Die Nase voll.
I'm fed up with waiting for a bus. Let's just get a taxi. Fill out.
Ausfüllen.
Could you fill out this form, please? Fridge.
Kühlschrank.
I've got nothing in the fridge. Get over.
Hinüberkommen.
Don't worry, the dog can't get over that wall. Giggle.
Kichern.
The class began to giggle at the professor. Hilarious.
Urkomisch.
It's hilarious. It really made me laugh. Hurt.
Verletzen.
Love like you've never been hurt. Ignore.
Ignorieren.
Just ignore them. Illegal.
Illegal.
It's not just that it's wrong, it's illegal. Jar.
Glas.
He started dropping the pebbles carefully into the jar. Lecture.
Vorlesung.
They realized that this was no ordinary philosophy lecture. Lift.
Mitfahrgelegenheit.
If you want a lift, I can drop you off at the rail station. Lose one's patience.
Die Geduld verlieren.
He finally lost his patience. Memory.
Gedächtnis.
Human beings do have a very long memory for being hurt. Military service.
Militärdienst.
In Britain, young people don't have to do military service. Moan.
Jammern.
He's always moaning. Needlework.
Handarbeit.
The girls had to do cooking and needlework. Obligatory.
Obligatorisch.
It was only in 1880 that school became obligatory. Passion.
Leidenschaft.
The pebbles represent your strongest passions. Pavement.
Bürgersteig.
You mustn't cycle on the pavement. Pebbles.
Kieselsteine.
He started dropping the pebbles carefully into the jar. Permanent.
Dauerhaft.
You mustn't make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. Pick up.
Zur Hand nehmen.
The professor picked up a bag of dried peas. Pigeon.
Taube.
Some days you're the pigeon, and some days you're the statue. Prayer.
Gebet.
You don't have to answer all my prayers. Privacy.
Privatsphäre.
You need to give people some privacy, even in a relationship. Public.
Öffentlichkeit.
You're not allowed to smoke anywhere in a public building. Record.
Aufnehmen.
Do you want me to record that film later? Remote control.
Fernbedienung.
Have you seen the remote control? Represent.
Darstellen.
The pebbles represent the big things in your life. Rescue.
Retten.
If you drop your phone into water, just rescue it immediately. Ridiculous.
Lächerlich.
You don't have to pay the ridiculous prices they charge. Rude.
Unhöflich.
Well, he didn't need to be quite so rude. Soak.
Eindringen.
He poured the beer into the jar, letting it soak into the sand. Spill.
Verschütten.
Have you ever spilled a drink on your phone? Stationery.
Schreibwaren.
I don't think they should take stationery for personal use. Stealing.
Diebstahl.
It's not allowed, so it is actually stealing. Strictly.
streng,
Did your parents bring you up strictly? Stuffy.
stickig,
It is very stuffy in here. Temporary.
vorübergehend,
You mustn't make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. Tip.
Trinkgeld,
Do you think we should leave a tip? Try on.
anprobieren,
Could I try on this jumper? Turn off.
ausschalten,
Try turning it off. Typewriter.
Schreibmaschine,
When I started work, we had to use typewriters. Warranty.
Garantie,
Is your phone under warranty? Waterproof.
wasserfest,
It doesn't always help if they're waterproof. Accident.
Unfall,
An accident playing football left him completely blind. Admire.
bewundern,
He first kicked as she admired a Leonardo da Vinci painting. Advert.
Anzeige,
Anne saw a newspaper advert from the Polar Travel Company. Agony.
Qual,
Most of the time you're in agony. Ambassador.
Botschafter, in,
He is a UN ambassador for climate change. Ant.
Ameise,
He learned that red ants improved the condition of the soil. Appoint.
ernennen,
A new CEO has been appointed. Assassinate.
ermorden,
President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. Bamboo.
Bambus,
They suggested he try planting bamboo. Barren.
karg,
Jadav planted some tree saplings on the barren land. Blister.
Blase,
You forget about all of the chafing and the blisters. Bloody-mindedness.
Starrsinn,
It's nothing more than stubbornness and bloody-mindedness. Campaigner.
Aktivist, in,
DiCaprio has also worked as an environmental campaigner. Cause.
Anliegen,
Do you support environmental causes? Chafing.
Wundscheuern,
You forget about all of the chafing and the blisters. Challenge.
Herausforderung,
It's still a huge challenge for a beginner, though. Close.
eng verbunden,
He remained close to both his parents after they separated. Committed.
engagiert,
DiCaprio's committed to improving the state of the world. Competitively.
unter Wettbewerbsbedingungen,
Victoria Pendleton rode bikes competitively for 11 years. Conservation.
Naturschutz,
He's donated over $70 million to conservation projects. Daring.
kühn,
I guess I became more daring and took more risks. Date.
mit jemandem, gehen,
He dated Giselle Bundchen between 2000 and 2005. Decade.
Jahrzehnt,
A decade is 10 years. Diligently.
gewissenhaft,
I went to university and studied diligently. Donate.
spenden,
He donated $15 million to the World Wildlife Fund. Duet.
Duett,
His album Sonio featured a duet with Celine Dion. Equipment.
Ausrüstung,
She borrowed all the clothes and equipment she needed. Explorer.
Forscher, in,
He says a bad memory is an advantage for an explorer. Extinct.
ausgestorben,
Is it really a problem if some animals become extinct? Formative.
prägend,
Do you think that had any kind of formative part in your life? Fundamental.
grundlegend,
That's pretty much fundamental to how he got into exploring. Gangrene.
Wundbrand,
You forget about all of the chafing and the gangrene. Gloomy.
bedrückend,
There's no shortage of gloomy stories about the environment. Heartening.
ermutigend,
This is the heartening story of a man who decided not to give in. Hippie.
hippie,
DiCaprio had hippie parents. Hooked.
süchtig,
I was hooked from day one. Horror.
entsetzen,
The sense of achievement really overcomes the horror. Idiot.
Idiot,
Anne Daniels says she was very lucky that some idiot chose her. Indebted.
In der Schuld, stehen.
I'm completely indebted to them in every single way. Issues.
Themen.
He's devoted half of his website to environmental issues. Jockey.
Jockey.
Victoria Pendleton's a jockey now. Lawyer.
Anwalt, Anwältin.
After graduating, he practiced as a state lawyer. Logger.
Holzfäller, in.
It wasn't only the loggers who wanted to cut down his trees. Mischief.
Dummheiten.
We were always getting up to mischief. Misery.
Leid.
What attracts you to the potential, utter misery of the poles? Niche.
Nische.
As a child, you were always seeking to find your niche. Nomination.
Nominierung.
He received the first of his 6 Best Actor Oscar nominations. Optimism.
Optimismus.
All I'm getting from you now is positivity and optimism. Rebel.
Rebellieren.
I never got the urge to rebel. Resign.
Zurücktreten.
The Prime Minister has resigned. Restrictions.
Beschränkungen.
It's above the baggage size restrictions. Retire.
In Rente gehen.
She didn't enjoy competitive cycling that much, so she retired. Sapling.
Setzling.
Jadav has been planting saplings and seeds every day since. Satisfied.
Zufrieden.
Is Jadav himself satisfied with what he's achieved? Scales.
Waage.
Put it on the scales, please. Seeds.
Samen.
Jadav has been planting saplings and seeds every day since. Separate.
Sich trennen.
Leonardo's parents separated when he was 1. Serial.
Serie.
He appeared in 40 TV adverts and TV serials as a child. Shore.
Küste.
Jadav enjoyed walking along the island's shores. Sled.
Schlitten.
Most of the time you're in agony, you're pulling a sled. Snake.
Schlange.
The snakes died in the heat, without any tree cover. Soil.
Boden.
He learned that red ants improved the condition of the soil. Star.
Die Hauptrolle spielen.
DiCaprio became world famous after starring in Titanic. Sting.
Stechen.
Have you ever been stung by a bee or wasp? Store.
Speichern.
How many liters of water are stored inside a baobab tree? Stubbornness.
Dickköpfigkeit.
It's nothing more than stubbornness and bloody-mindedness. Summit.
Gipfel.
He hosted the Earth Day Summit on global warming in 2000. Take shelter.
Schutz suchen.
Elephants began to take shelter among the trees. Tirelessly.
Unermüdlich.
He's also worked tirelessly as an environmental campaigner. Transcendent.
Überwältigend.
All that you take away are those transcendent moments. Unconditionally.
Bedingungslos.
My parents supported me unconditionally. Urge.
Drang.
I never got the urge to rebel. Utter.
Absolut.
What attracts you to the potential, utter misery of the poles? Vegetation.
Vegetation.
There was no vegetation for them to shelter in. Vocation.
Berufung.
When you have a vocation for something, you should follow it. Whisper.
Flüstern.
She whispered something softly in his ear. Advantage.
Vorteil.
Being a child has both advantages and disadvantages. Arrest.
Verhaften.
Han was arrested for daring to speak out against them. Athletic.
Athletisch.
She was really athletic, great at all sports. Befriend.
Sich anfreunden.
Kinder boys were afraid to befriend him. Bite.
Beißen.
You use your teeth and mouth to bite. Blow.
Explodieren.
A balloon blew up in my face once, so I'm terrified of doing it. Boarding school.
Internat.
Gordonston is a famous and very expensive boarding school. Clap.
Beifall, klatschen.
We were all clapping our hands in time with the music. Climb.
Hochsteigen.
I had to climb a ladder to get the cat down. Coincidence.
Zufall.
What a coincidence. Common room.
Gemeinschaftsraum.
They all have TVs, a common room, and a kitchen. Con.
Nachteil.
Being a child has both pros and cons. Corridor.
Gang.
She'd just walk past me in the corridor. Curriculum.
Lehrplan.
What sports are part of the school's curriculum? Depend on.
Abhängen von.
Children depend on getting pocket money. Disadvantage.
Nachteil.
Being a child has both advantages and disadvantages. Disastrous.
Katastrophal.
She wants to forget the disastrous cookery exam. Disgusting.
Widerlich.
How disgusting. Dismal.
Miserabel.
The dismal mark was no surprise as I'd neglected my studies. Ditch.
Graben.
I crashed her car, turned it over in a ditch. Domestic science.
Hauswirtschaft.
My domestic science exam was, in fact, a cookery exam. Dreadful.
Furchtbar.
How dreadful. Dump.
Schluss machen.
He texted Anna to say that he'd dumped her. Embarrassing.
Peinlich.
I felt like my mum and dad were just embarrassing. Endure.
Ertragen.
Boys were expected to endure hard conditions. Exile.
Verbannen.
Han was exiled to Britain. Fulfill.
Erfüllen.
It can be difficult to fulfill all your dreams. Fuss.
Aufheben, es.
When her parents came back, they kicked up such a fuss. Grounded.
Unter Hausarrest.
I was grounded for a month. Hit.
Schlagen.
You hit a nail with a hammer. Homesick.
Voller Heimweh, krank vor Heimweh.
Try not to feel too homesick while you're away. Hug.
Umarmen.
They hugged each other tightly and said goodbye. Infection.
Infektion.
You might get an infection if you scratch it. Ironically.
Ironischerweise.
Ironically, today, I am a quite good cook. Kick.
Kicken.
I can't kick a football very well with my left foot. Kick off.
Anstoßen.
3 small boys were kicking off in the corridor outside. Kneel.
Knien.
Do people kneel down to pray in all religions? Ladder.
Leiter.
I had to climb a ladder to get the cat down. Lick.
Lecken.
I wish my dog wouldn't lick my face. Loath.
Hassen.
Charles loathed Gordonston. March.
Marschieren.
My nephew marches up and down like a soldier. Nail.
Nagel.
He's useless at DIY. He can't even hit a nail with a hammer. Nails.
Nägel.
I keep trying to stop biting my nails, but I can't. Neglect.
Vernachlässigen.
The dismal mark was no surprise as I'd neglected my studies. Nerdy.
Streberhaft.
I was a bit of a nerdy student. I always did my homework. Overall.
Insgesamt.
I only just managed to get enough marks overall to continue. Overseas.
Im Ausland.
Han encouraged the boys to work overseas. Persuade.
Überreden.
I'd persuaded him to let me go to this big party. Point.
Richten, auf.
The gunman pointing a gun at the bank clerk. Pray.
Beten.
Do people kneel down to pray in all religions? Pressurize.
Unter Druck setzen.
They can feel pressurized by parents and the education system. Pro.
Vorteil.
Being a child has both pros and cons. Pupil.
Schüler, in.
I wasn't a star pupil, but I was good at taking exams. Remarkable.
Bemerkenswert.
It's a remarkable story in a way. Retirement home.
Altenheim, Altersheim.
Pupils help in the local area, visiting retirement homes. Revise.
Lehrstoff, wiederholen.
I always did my homework and revised hard. Rifle.
Gewehr.
Students can also do horse riding, rifle shooting, and golf. Risk-taking.
Risikobereitschaft.
Outdoor activities and risk-taking were central to Han. Rounded.
Vielseitig.
It aims to produce much more rounded, risk-taking adults. Rug.
Decke.
My dad put a rug down on the grass. Score.
Erzielen.
I scored 9% in the chemistry exam at the end of my first year. Scratch.
Kratzen.
You might get an infection if you scratch it. Shudder.
Schaudern.
The memory of failing that exam makes me shudder to this day. Skill.
Fertigkeit.
Skills such as mountaineering and sailing were taught. Stare.
Starren.
It's impolite to stare in some cultures. SWAT.
Streber, in.
I didn't want to be called a SWAT. Whistle.
Pfeifen.
Since you whistled that tune, I can't get it out of my head. Addict.
Süchtige,
I'm afraid he's becoming a video game addict. Articulate.
Sprachgewandt.
He's not just smart, he's cool and articulate. Artificial intelligence.
Künstliche Intelligenz.
The danger is not artificial intelligence, it's natural stupidity. Beat.
Besiegen.
An AI program beat Lee Sedol at the game Go in 2016. Big-headed.
Arrogant.
My brother's so big-headed, he's very self-centered. Bright.
Aufgeweckt.
Taylor's grandmother got him a book about a bright teenager. Cancer.
Krebs.
He has plans to improve cancer treatment. Capability.
Fähigkeit.
I had the capability of doing things that could really help. Climate change.
Klimawandel.
AI could soon help solve problems such as climate change. Coal.
Kohle.
We're going to have to leave most of the coal in the ground. Defeat.
Niederlage.
Lee Sedol was surprised by his defeat to AlphaGo. Explosion.
Explosion.
His neighbors weren't happy about the explosions next door. Fellowship.
Stipendium.
Taylor received a $100,000 two-year fellowship. Fossil fuels.
Fossile Brennstoffe.
Can we really cut the amount of fossil fuels we use? Fusion energy.
Fusionsenergie.
How is fusion energy different from nuclear energy? Gadget.
Gerät.
There's one gadget I absolutely adore, the satnav. Geek.
Geek.
Taylor isn't a typical shy geek. Genius.
Genie.
I'm fairly intelligent, but I'm not a genius. Human race.
Menschheit.
The development could be the end of the human race. Hypochondriac.
Hypochonder, in.
I'm actually a bit of a hypochondriac. Invention.
Erfindung.
The US government was interested in one of Taylor's inventions. Liquid.
Flüssigkeit.
Taylor was looking at a pool of liquid on the floor. Offshore.
Vor der Küste.
The UK now has the world's largest offshore wind farm. Outgoing.
Kontaktfreudig.
He's an outgoing, expressive young man. Play truant.
Schwänzen.
Children may start playing truant in order to play video games. Plumber.
Sanitärinstallateur, in.
Can you recommend a good plumber? Reactor.
Reaktor.
Taylor made his own nuclear fusion reactor at the age of 14. Research.
Forschung.
Dr. Griffiths says that more research is needed. Self-centered.
Egozentrisch.
My brother's so big-headed, he's very self-centered. Selfish.
Egoistisch.
It was fun, but in a way it was selfish too. Smart.
Klug.
He's not just smart, he's cool and articulate. Source.
Quelle.
Do you think new sources of energy will be found? Spoil.
ruinieren,
Some people say wind farms spoil the countryside. Suitable.
geeignet,
Did you manage to find suitable accommodation? Uniquely.
in einzigartiger Weise.
AI can help us to focus on what humans are uniquely good at. Violence.
Gewalt,
I worry about the violence in these video games. Virtual reality.
virtuelle Realität,
The addiction will only get worse with virtual reality headsets. Afford.
sich leisten,
Some young job seekers can't afford to buy a suit for interviews. Bombard.
bombardieren,
Every day, we're bombarded with advertising. Brake.
bremsen,
He braked hard and fell off his motorcycle. Broadcast.
ausstrahlen,
The media broadcast stories about the kindness of strangers. Browse.
umsehen,
I was just browsing around a clothes shop. Catch up.
catch up,
We use it for streaming films and catch-up TV. Charity.
gemeinnützige Zwecke,
I'd give the money to charity. Commission.
Provision,
Do you charge commission? Community.
Gemeinschaft,
Sharing could also bring back some of the sense of community. Conservatory.
Wintergarten,
The French windows open into a small conservatory. Currency.
Währung,
What's the exchange rate between your currency and sterling? Customs.
Zoll,
I took a bag through customs for a man who asked me to. Dash.
Rasen,
I dashed down the stairs to the ground floor. Daydream.
Tagträumen,
Oh, sorry about that, I'm daydreaming today. Declare.
erklären, zu,
The local government has declared Seoul to be a sharing city. Delighted.
erfreut,
Sarah was delighted when Billy gave her the ring back. Downside.
Nachteile,
There are downsides such as problems with insurance. Dread.
fürchten vor,
I sometimes dread to think what might have happened. Drill.
Bohrer,
An average drill is only used for between 6 to 13 minutes in total. Envelope.
Umschlag,
They put the purse with all its contents in an envelope. Exchange rate.
Wechselkurs,
What's the exchange rate between your currency and sterling? Gorgeous.
wunderschön,
That china plate on the wall is gorgeous. Heartwarming.
herzerwärmend,
Which of the acts of kindness do you find most heartwarming? Hire.
vermieten,
She thinks toys are the perfect items to hire out. In a flash.
blitzschnell,
He was away in a flash and I never said thank you. In a hurry.
in Eile,
The students were in a hurry. In pain.
Schmerzen haben,
There was a man lying on the pavement, clearly in pain. Injured.
verletzt,
But this Samaritan saw the injured man and felt sorry for him. Jewelry.
Schmuck,
They found a bag containing £1 million in cash and jewelry. Karma.
Karma,
Karma is the idea that your behavior will affect your future. Luggage.
Gepäck,
They helped me with my luggage. On credit.
auf Kredit,
I couldn't have bought it if it hadn't been on credit. Overdrawn.
überzogen,
Are you ever overdrawn at the end of the month? Plenty.
viel,
They had plenty of time. Poll.
Umfrage,
In a large online poll, 81% of people said they would. Prevent.
verhindern,
Wearing a helmet would have prevented his death. Profit.
profitieren,
Just Park lets you profit from your own parking space. Protest.
Protest,
The rally was a protest against the law about wearing helmets. Purse.
Geldbeutel,
They put the purse with all its contents in an envelope. Rally.
Kundgebung,
The rally was a protest against the law about wearing helmets. Rate.
beurteilen,
Users can see how others have rated someone's work. Rubbish.
Mist.
My maths teacher at school was rubbish, so I hated it. Rush hour.
Hauptverkehrszeit.
The station is always packed during rush hour. Swear.
Beschimpfen.
It was wrong of him to swear at Matt. Accountant.
Buchhalter, in.
I need an accountant to help solve my financial difficulties. Altar.
Altar.
I can't be stood up at the altar because I'm marrying myself. Apparently.
Anscheinend.
Apparently solo weddings are becoming quite popular there. Appetite.
Appetit.
Reg had an enormous appetite. Battle.
Schlacht.
There was a bloody battle and the Greeks won easily. Bones.
Knochen.
Elephants have the same number of bones in their feet. Bowl.
Schale.
I think we'll eat from bowls instead of plates. Break up.
Schluss machen.
He broke up with me abruptly. Brother-in-law.
Schwager.
We think Alex and Rick must be brothers-in-law. Candlestick.
Kerzenständer.
It may be a candlestick. Cargo.
Fracht.
I worked in the export cargo section. Catch.
Haken.
There was one catch. I didn't have any money. Celebration.
Feier.
A solo wedding is a celebration of yourself. Ceremony.
Zeremonie.
The package includes everything except the actual ceremony. Conjunctivitis.
Bindehautentzündung.
My eye is red and oozy with conjunctivitis. Crossroads.
Kreuzung.
Turn left at the next crossroads. Curlers.
Lockenwickler.
Mayumi placed my hair in curlers. Date.
Mit jemandem, gehen.
I thought I was dating the man I would marry. Delayed.
Verspätet.
The flight must have been delayed. Depressing.
Deprimierend.
It's depressing because the photos are very sad. Divorcee.
Geschiedene,
She is a 48-year-old divorcee. Dizzy.
Schwindelig.
I feel dizzy climbing a step ladder. Drawing.
Zeichnung.
This drawing looks like 4 shelves, but there can't be 4. Eat up.
Aufessen.
There's no dessert until you've eaten up all your vegetables. Echo.
Widerhallen.
Ducks' quacks do actually echo. Elegant.
Elegant.
I barely recognize the radiant, elegant woman I see. Evil.
Böse.
I can't see good, but I can see evil. Excuse.
Ausrede.
I'll just make up an excuse if they ask. Fake.
Fingiert.
I personally would have liked a fake husband in my photos. Fall out with.
Sich mit jemandem entzweien.
She must have fallen out with him. Fashionable.
Modisch.
We took a taxi to a fashionable part of town. Fictitious.
Fiktiv.
We made up a company with a fictitious address in London. Flush.
Spülung.
A toilet flush always rotates in the same way. Groom.
Bräutigam.
Do you mean there's no groom, no husband? Hemisphere.
Halbkugel.
Is that island in the northern or southern hemisphere? Hyperactive.
Hyperaktiv.
Too much sugar makes children hyperactive. Iceberg.
Eisberg.
The ship sank after hitting the iceberg. Joke.
Witze machen.
I think he was joking when he said that. Luxurious.
Luxuriös.
The rich enjoyed their meal in the luxurious dining room. Mammal.
Säugetier.
Hippos are the only mammals to produce pink milk. Nightmare.
Albtraum.
So you got no sleep after that nightmare journey. Oozy.
Schleimig.
My eye is red and oozy with conjunctivitis. Optical illusion.
Optische Täuschung.
What can you see in this optical illusion? Parallel.
Parallel.
It doesn't look parallel. Pee.
Pinkeln.
He's got 1 bottle to pee in and 1 to drink. Personally.
Persönlich.
I personally would have liked a fake husband in my photos. Pinch.
Klauen.
He had his wallet pinched. Placebo.
Placebo.
This was also true when the children only had a placebo. Pose.
Posieren.
I posed for the customary wedding shots. Puffy.
Bauschig.
The private fitting room was lined with puffy white gowns. Quack.
Quaken.
Ducks' quacks do actually echo. Radiant.
Strahlend.
I barely recognize the radiant, elegant woman I see. Sacred.
Heilig.
He knew that horses were sacred animals to the Trojans. Seesaw.
Wippe.
It doesn't look parallel at all. It looks like a seesaw. Self-confidence.
Selbstvertrauen.
Clients are often surprised by the self-confidence they gain. Skeleton.
Skelett.
It isn't a skeleton, it just looks like one. Soldier.
Soldat. In.
It must be a soldier. He's wearing a helmet. Sound the alarm.
Alarm blasen.
A lookout sounded the alarm, but it was too late. Sparkling water.
Wasser mit Kohlensäure.
Would you like still or sparkling water? Still water.
Wasser ohne Kohlensäure.
I'll have still water please. Take up.
Anfangen.
I'm going to take up rock climbing. To be honest.
Ehrlich gesagt.
To be honest, some Sundays I find it too difficult to get up. Trend.
Trend.
The solo wedding is a growing trend in Japan. Turbulence.
Turbulenzen.
Turbulence can be really scary. Victory.
Sieg.
They had a big party to celebrate victory. Weeping.
Weinend.
Mayumi applied makeup to expertly cover my weeping eye. Wreck.
Wrack.
In 1985, the wreck itself was discovered on the seabed. Animation.
Animation.
This was then handed over to an animation design studio. Boom.
Boomen.
But the sales of even vinyl records are booming. Can opener.
Dosenöffner.
Don't forget to take a can opener when you go camping. Cheese grater.
Käsereibe.
Be careful not to cut yourself using that cheese grater. Colander.
Sieb.
Use the colander to drain the pasta. Demand.
Nachfrage.
There was a rise in demand for physical books. Disapprove.
Missbilligen.
I disapprove of everyone always being on their phones. Distracted.
Abgelenkt.
They said they easily got distracted from e-textbooks. Dot.
Punkt.
The performer's face is covered with small marker dots. Dull.
Langweilig.
Digital characters can seem lifeless and dull. Dustpan and brush.
Schaufel und Handfeger.
Why don't you use a dustpan and brush for those last little bits? Expressive.
Ausdrucksstark.
An expressive digital character is created from the performance. Facial expression.
Gesichtsausdruck.
They create lifelike facial expressions on digital characters. Fancy.
Lust haben.
Fancy coming and hanging out with us. Grade.
Bewerten.
Students grade each other's essays. Handcuffs.
Handschellen.
The police may put handcuffs round the wrists of prisoners. Harness.
Gurt.
He was swinging from the frame, wearing the special harness. Lifelike.
Lebensecht.
They create lifelike facial expressions on digital characters. Light bulb.
Glühbirne.
I think the light bulb needs changing. Lose touch with.
Kontakt verlieren mit.
Screens seem to make us lose touch with the physical world. Nail clippers.
Nagelclips.
I'd never used anyone else's nail clippers. Nail varnish.
Nagellack.
She had bright green nail varnish. Oven gloves.
Ofenhandschuhe.
Use the oven gloves or you'll burn yourself. Padlock.
Vorhängeschloss.
The thieves managed to break the padlock. Paperclip.
Büroklammer.
Get the colorful paperclips instead of those plain ones. Performer.
Künstler, in.
The performer wears a head-mounted camera. Reckon.
Meinen.
I reckon we'll have another one later this year. Restructuring.
Umstrukturierung.
There's more restructuring going on in my department. Safety pin.
Sicherheitsnadel.
They used to use safety pins on babies' nappies in the old days. Shaving.
Rasur.
I cut myself shaving. Special effects.
Spezialeffekte.
We're so used to special effects in films these days. Subtle.
Subtil.
He captures the subtle movements in the actors' faces. Sunglasses.
Sonnenbrille.
I keep a pair of sunglasses in my car. Tape measure.
Maßband.
My tape measure gives inches as well as centimeters. Trick.
Trick.
They try to hide the technical tricks which are involved. Tweezers.
Pinzette.
It hurts when you use tweezers to pull hairs out. Vinyl.
Vinyl.
But the sales of even vinyl records are booming. Washing powder.
Waschpulver.
Put the washing powder in the drawer of the washing machine. Washing up sponge.
Abwaschschwamm.
Do you use a washing up sponge or a brush to do dishes? Wrapping paper.
Geschenkpapier.
I found some lovely wrapping paper for her birthday present. Wrap up.
Einpacken.
I tried to wrap it up as nicely as I could. Absence.
Abwesenheit.
The court asked Garcia to explain his absence. Accuse.
Vorwerfen.
He was accused of lying about where he had been. Admired.
Bewundert.
Angelina Jolie is the world's most admired woman. Admit.
Einräumen.
They admitted that sales were down that year. Advise.
Raten.
I would advise you to talk to your doctor about it. Annoyed.
Verärgert.
The tramp was annoyed at being woken up. Appalling.
Entsetzlich.
She had had a childhood of appalling suffering. Approve.
Billigen.
I can't say I really approve of you doing that. Beg.
Flehen.
He begged for forgiveness. Bench.
Bank.
The tramp was sleeping on a park bench. Capsize.
Kentern.
He survived that great adventure, without becoming capsized by it. Command.
Befehlen.
The leader commanded him to follow his orders. Compliment.
Beglückwünschen.
He complimented his wife on her new hairstyle. Court.
Gericht.
The case went to court. Criticize.
Kritisieren.
Stop criticizing me. Dazzling.
Umwerfend.
We saw some dazzling, extraordinary things. Deny.
Leugnen.
The Prime Minister denied everything. Depressed.
Deprimiert.
I was bullied and I became depressed. Fine.
Bußgeld.
The court ordered Garcia to pay a fine of 27,000 euros. Fortune.
Vermögen.
Their new car must have cost a fortune. Funeral.
Beerdigung.
Thousands of people came to her funeral. Grumble.
Meckern.
They'll grumble about anything and everything. Gutter.
Gosse.
A gutter in Dublin or Ho Chi Minh City is still a gutter. Horrific.
Schrecklich.
It's impossible to recover fully from such a horrific childhood. Immersed.
Versunken.
The landing is like being immersed in a sheet of fire. Initially.
Anfangs.
Giovanni was initially going to become a lawyer, but he didn't. Insist.
Bestehen.
He insisted on speaking in English to me. Institution.
Einrichtung.
The children were put into separate institutions. Matter of factness.
Sachlichkeit.
Like many astronauts, he retained a military matter of factness. Medal.
Orden.
The mayor told him that he would not receive a medal. Missionary.
Missionar. In.
Mother Teresa was a missionary who worked in Calcutta. Naked.
Nackt.
You don't get to see the gondoliers naked. Payroll.
Gehaltsliste.
Has he retired or is he still on the payroll? Praise.
Loben.
The CEO would like to praise all staff for achieving these results. Promising.
Vielversprechend.
She's a promising student who should do well. Quarrel.
Zanken.
Will you two stop quarreling? Relish.
Genießen.
Kernan relished the celebrity the moon landing gave him. Reticence.
Zurückhaltung.
Occasionally his reticence gave way to a sense of wonder. Retreat.
Sich zurückziehen.
Kernan didn't retreat from the fame he attained. Scream.
Schreien.
We were all screaming. Sentimental.
Sentimental.
You don't have that much time to follow your sentimental life. Separate.
Getrennt.
The children were put into separate institutions. Sibling.
Geschwister.
She had to become a mother to her younger siblings. Slums.
Elendsviertel.
She was born in 1944 in the slums of Dublin. Specific.
Konkret.
Could you be a bit more specific? Suffering.
Leid.
She had had a childhood of appalling suffering. Tramp.
Landstreicher. In.
The tramp was annoyed at being woken up.